What's going on, everyone? This is your boy Chief Gibson, and I just want to welcome you into my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first time, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to be notified with my future videos. If you have already subscribed, thank you so much for being here. Let's get it on. All right, everyone, welcome back. And this is your boy Chief Gibson, and this is going to be maybe a long video. The first thing is my MEPS was down in Miami, Florida, that's where my background is, right? I think it was around March 2003 ish. That's when I tried to try to join the army. I had a goal in mind, just join the army. I always want to be in the military, and I just want to give it a try. I was chasing a different MOS than what I became and what I am now. I was chasing 11 Charlie. So that was kind of like what I had in the back of my head. But at the end of the day, I needed to pay some bills and I wanted to be a soldier. So might as well do what I wanted to do, right? So, I went to see a recruiter. And obviously, the first thing that recruiters are going to tell you, right? Hey, you're gonna get a drug test. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it to you. So if you did something that you're not supposed to, start drinking water, right? So that was the first thing. I didn't have to worry about that, but I was with a group of kids, so that's what they said. So moving on, we went to the MEPS, and I want to tell you right now, just straight up forward, if your recruiter takes you to MEPS, do not schedule anything. Do not schedule anything for that day, because you're going to be at MEPS basically the whole day. Just plan to be there as long as possible, because not only, MEPS takes a while to do all their processing and all their stuff, but obviously the recruiter's probably just going to drop you off and then go do their thing, because, they got all their duties and responsibilities, I'm sure, and then they'll come back and pick you up. So that's the first thing. So if you're a parent and you're watching me, your son is going to be there for a while. I'm sure if you speak to a recruiter, they'll tell you the same thing. Unless they have this one specific task that they're going to do, they'll just go there and do it and probably get out within an hour or so. But I'm pretty sure that it's not too much of the recruiter's fault, because once they go to MEPS, you have those people that work there and that's their everyday job. So that's a whole different story. So again, shout out to the recruiters. And back to my story. So I went there. And back then you needed to get I believe it might still be the same, a 31 to pass your ASVAB. However, if you have a GED, which is what I had, you needed to get a 45 or higher in order to pass. So I said, hey, whatever, I'll give it a try, right? So I went and I gave it a try, and I should have tried harder, because I did not get a 45 or higher. So I can't really remember what was the score, but I think it was like a 37 or something like that is what I got. So the recruiter told me, hey, you failed. It is what it is. Go ahead and study. And he told me to go to marchtosuccess.com. So I'm gonna put the link down on the comments below. I already went and I looked at it, and the website still exists. So you can go in there and practice. You know what I mean? There might be some other links or other websites that you can practice with, but that's the one that I used. So I'm going to recommend it to you. Go in there, use it. It's going to be on the comments below, like I said. So I went in there and I practiced for a little bit, and then he came back and said, hey, isn't it English your second language? I said, yeah, I speak Spanish. And he was like, hey, so why don't we do this, right? Since you want to leave right now, why don't we do this? Why don't we go the route saying that English is since it is your second language, take that route. And then what you do is you take a test. They'll teach you English and all this other math, and they teach you a little bit about the military life. And then you take the ASVAB again, and then you pass, right? But you can't pass this test. You have to fail this test, because technically you don't speak English, right? So I went and I passed the test. I passed the test. So I wasn't supposed to pass. Again, I was supposed to fail. So I'm pretty sure the recruiter, when I left, he he had a couple things to say. But it is what it is. This is my story. You know, you learn by mistakes. I'm bringing it here so you don't make the same. So, you know, obviously you speak too much English in order for you to go through that program. So you're gonna have to actually take the actual test. So the guy said, hey, look, you can take the test, but if you fail one more time, if you don't get a 45 or higher, what's going to happen is you're going to have to wait 6 months, because this is technically your third time taking the test. So I said, hey, you know, well, just give me some time, let me study, and I'll take the test. You know, what's the worst that can happen? I won't do it. It is what it is. So then but then he came back and told me, well, listen, another thing that can help you is, you know, a waiver can come in. Sometimes waivers come in for active duty, but waivers come in for reserve or National Guard. Somehow I got lucky because waivers came in. Waivers came in for the National Guard, not National Guard, I'm sorry. Waivers came in for the reserves. Take notes of this. So he was like, hey, this is what we can do, right? We can get you, I know you want to go active because, you know, the way the reserves works and National Guard and all that, but, you know, the main point is to get your foot on the door, right? So let's get you a waiver. You join the military, you know, you join the reserves, you go through AIT, basic and AIT, and then, you know, you do your program, come back, and you wait 6 months, and then you can go active. Now, like I said at the beginning, I was chasing 11 Charlie, so I wasn't too happy about it because obviously the reserve doesn't have infantry, only the National Guard. And it was to the point that I was willing to do 11 X-ray, which is kind of like you just go as 11, and then once you're done with your school, they'll just choose one for you. Hey, we have openings for Bravos, 11 Bravos, or 11 X-ray, or 11 Charlie, I'm sorry. So, but with the reserves, they were like, hey, this is what we have, and you know, just take it. And I said, all right, man, you know, I just need to go. I need to get a job, and you know, military. We'll go with that plan. So I went through I went back to MEPS and started the whole process again, and got into the actual area where you talk to, you don't speak to a recruiter, but you speak to that guy who's gonna get you your contract done, and if you have any bonuses or anything like that, right? And I remember that the guy was like, hey, I'm gonna make a phone call. Maybe it was true, maybe it was not, whatever, but you know, it's the past. So the guy was like, hey, I'm gonna make a phone call, right? And whatever they tell me that they have available, I'm gonna give you that. And you take it or leave it, right? So I mean, again, I had an idea, but I kind of didn't care at the same time. So I was like, all right, it is what it is, just call. So he went and he, you know, hung up the phone and said, hey, what I have for you is 92 Yankee, right? Unit supply specialist. And obviously my first question was like, okay, what is that? And I was like, well, you know, I said 92 Yankee. The first thing is you can go into any unit that you want to go to because every unit needs a 92 Yankee. So that's a good thing. The bad thing about it is, you know, you're gonna have to deal with property and paperwork. A lot of people don't want to do that, but at that time, you know, I just say, hey, you know what? Give me that. Let's get it over with, right? So when they were going through the paperwork, I remember that, you know, the guy got up and went and saw my recruiter, and then they came back. They were going through my background. So they came back and said, hey, your records say that one of your forms say that there's a possible gang related on one of your I guess arrest forms, right? So I was like, hey, yeah, that's what the police officer put, but I'm not. I was never in a gang, you know what I mean? So there is a couple rules that apply to that. If it's like, you know, if it's a group of people, it could be considered a gang, whatever. So that brought up a whole different story, right? So I couldn't process that day, and they started investigating, looking into this. So the recruiter told me, hey, you know, they're looking into this. Just wait a couple days, and then we'll go back and see what happens. A couple days went by, and then they brought me back. You know, they wanted to get like a sworn statement from me, you know, telling them. So I went back into the office. Now this time it wasn't it wasn't the first guy I spoke to was a sergeant first class, right? Like an actual green suited guy. This time was a civilian. So I'm sitting there, and the guy's like, yeah, you just gotta do a sworn statement. So just come in here and just put truth, just tell the truth. And I'm like, okay, but I was never in a gang, you know what I mean? I'm trying to tell the story. He's like, oh no, true story. The guy told me, no, don't worry about it. If you were in a gang, just write it down on the sworn statement. This happens all the time. So in my head, I'm like, wait, how is that even possible? However, the problem was that I was in the office, just me and him. All right. So here's one thing to take note. If you have to discuss anything, go in there with either a mentor that you had, or a parent that has been in the military, or even your recruiter, right? So I was just me and him, but I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I was smart enough to know that, hey, this doesn't make sense to me, right? So I still put, I was never in a gang, not gang related, yes, I fought, blah, 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 blah. This is what happened based on that story. And, I turned the paper in. So the guy was like, all right, just go ahead and wait outside, and, we'll call you back in as soon as we're done to either, to give you a final answer. So about an hour went by, an hour and a half, and they called me back in, So when they called me back in, my recruiter is in there this time. They're like, hey, the MEPS commander wants to talk to you guys. I go see the MEPS commander this time. We go in, and, I wasn't in the military then, so, they do their thing. And so I sit down, and I'm sitting there with him, some major, I can't remember his name, but it was a major, and my recruiter. So this guy started asking me all kinds of questions. What about this? What about that? And what did you do? So, I'm sticking to my guns, So, hey, no, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you got this, you got that. All right, so calm down to, he tells me, hey, so this is what he tells me. So this is what I'm going to do, Mr. Gibson, all right? So I have a friend who's in the gang unit department here in Miami. So I'm going to give him a phone call, and if he tells me that you are in fact a gang member related or affiliated to any gang stuff, I'm just gonna dismiss you from joining the military. I waited a couple days, and then I called the recruiter. I was like, hey, you got anything? He was like, no, I haven't heard anything. I'm gonna make some phone calls, and I'll let you know. I went back to MEPS. I'm seeing the same guy. This time the same guy that was telling me to write the sworn statement and put gang if he was, blah blah blah. It's the same guy again. So when I joined the reserves, right, at that time there were talks of me getting a bonus, right? So I was supposed to get a bonus. I think it was like $7,000. Anyway, so the guy, is reading through the contract, and I start signing. I'm excited. I'm telling you. I barely slept the night before. I'm like, hey sir, there were talks when I was trying to join. There were talks that I was supposed to get a bonus. There were talks. It was about $7,000. Very respectfully, I haven't heard you mention anything about it. And he, again, true story. The guy said to me, "What bonus?" I said, well, like I said, the ones that they talked about. And he told me, well, you already signed the paperwork, man, so there isn't any bonus. Right now, I mean, it would have been a different story, but at that time, the way things were, and how I was, I just didn't say anything. So I said, okay, all right, sir, not a problem. I'll just go and do and serve, which is what I want to do. About an hour, 2 hours went by, and they called us into this little office that they have with flags, and an officer walks in, like an actual all-grade officer, and commission officer. He walks in, he or she, but for me it was a he. He walked in, and he was like, okay guys, I'm going to, we're going to do the sworn right now, and this is how they kind of give you a breakdown of how it's going to go. At that time, you're going to be allowed to bring in, anyone who wants to experience that, right? Especially your parents that have never served, your first time server, all those things, which is pretty cool. So just keep that in mind. If you ever do that, maybe your recruiter will tell you. But if you're watching this episode, just keep that in mind. You can bring your family or whoever. They'll just stand in the back to the side while you do your thing. So, the guy start, raise your right hand, repeat after me, blah, 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 blah. He did the whole thing. And you just went, you swore in. So at the end, the guy will ask, he or she will ask, if has there been anything that has been talked to you about, that has been promised to you, but was not in your contract. And man, I was like this close to raise my hand, this close to raise, but yes, I didn't. I was this close to raise my hand and say, yes, me. They offered me a bonus, and this is what this guy told me. But I have been through so much. To join the military. You know what I mean? I can see it as a positive thing, me being consistent and actually doing it, or they got me. When I was about 3 months, I called the same recruiter again, and I started talking to him like, hey man, I'm ready to go, right? So you start doing the paperwork through your unit, right? So one thing to keep in mind is when you come back to MEPS, now you are considered a prior service. Now you have a little bit more say so on what you want. So that's the time when you can reclass. You can get a bigger bonus, right? And all those things, right? So I came back and I'm like, hey, I did my time. Let me get 11 X-ray, right? Because you got to go through AIT. I won't do basic, but I have to go through AIT. So the day before, I have a friend, he's still serving. He went through it, right? He was an IDT Yankee. He wanted to stay as an IDT Yankee. And when he went through, they told him, hey, we have openings for 11 series, and we have urban school, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So the next, I'm like, well, I'm going tomorrow, so this is going to be great. But him, he didn't switch MOS. He stayed where he wanted to stay, and I think he chose to go to Germany. So as a prior service, you can also choose. It's kind of free game for the most part, right? The recruiter comes to pick me up like 5 in the morning or 4:30, something like that. It's early, right? Jump in the car. I'm super excited. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna be like, yeah, by consistency, I got what I want. So I get there, and I don't know if they were lying to me or not, but the 11 series was closed, and there were no openings for airborne school. I get there and they're like, no, I'm sorry. These MOSs are frozen today. Like we already met the quota, I guess. The military, it's not just that MEPS. They already made the quota, so these MOSs are frozen. You can stay for a little longer and see if it opens up and do it, and and just reclass. So I was like, man, let me go outside and talk to my recruiter. So I went outside and talked to my recruiter, and this time I brought him in. So we came back in, and I was like, hey, is there anything that you can do? And then they started talking, right? Both two Sergeant First classes, they started talking, and one was telling the other, like, look, man, show him the list. Again, I don't know how accurate that list was, but on the list, it was 11 X-ray, 11 Charlie, 11 Bravo. So they were in there. So the guy told me, look, let's do this. Stay 92 Yankee, right? Unit supply specialist, keep that job. But what I can do for you is Fort Benning is open, right? So what you can do is go to Fort Benning and then work your way through it. If you have to go to airborne school, go to airborne school. And then if you want to do that after your first term, you can reclass, right? So the minimum requirement for serving right now is 3 years. I know there was a time that was 2, but for me, it was 3 years. So I said, you know what? I could have stayed, but again, so much had happened to me that I was just like, you know what? Let me just join and go about my business. So I just joined, and I think it was like 2 weeks later again, I just packed my bags and went to Benning, went through the whole process as a prior service, and then reported to my first duty station. Just popped in my head before I leave, right? When you are a a brand new civilian coming into the military, right? There are a lot of you will come in as an E1, depending if you have like JRTC can get you promoted, or there's these other levels, right? So if you are a parent watching this video and your child is going through it, yes, it's excitement that it's exciting that they're going through, they're going to join the army, they're going to join the military. However, come on, everybody wants to make a little bit of money, and now it's pretty decent being a E1 and going into the military. But back then, I think I was making, and I know there's people that have been in the military that are older than me, then joined the military way before me. But I was making $600 every 2 weeks when I joined the military. So I know people were making less than that when they joined. But that's a different conversation, different episode. But back to the race. If you did JRTC while you were in high school, you can get promoted. Talk to your recruiter about that. The other thing is, if you got to take the phase test. So it's kind of like when you're in basic, going from one phase to the other, like one color to the next. So you got to take a phase test. So talk to your recruiter about taking the phase test. It's kind of, you got to take a PT test, and they ask you a couple questions like your 3 general orders and the time, things like that. So that's another way. So if you're E1, you can go to E2, right? Doing one of those 2 things. The other one is referring a battle buddy. So if you are joining the military, right, you can, if you and your battle buddy are joining, right, you can join with that person, and since you refer them, you can go from E1 to E2, E2 to E3. So also keep that in mind, right? And yeah, there is also, I guess one person can take the test, and then the other one can be referred, right? Something like that. So talk to your recruiter about that. I think that's a good way to, get you a little bit more money, because at the end of the day, we all have bills to pay. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, I think I have covered most of my experience, my experience with MEPS. If you had anything different or a story like it, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this story. It was crazy, but it is what it is. I made it through consistency, and here I am, right? So again, hey, I'm so grateful for everyone who's supporting this channel. I am grateful. I have nothing but great things to say. Thank you so much, everyone. And once again, please, if you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, sharing with your friends. I thank you greatly. All right. So again, Chief Gibson, thank you so much for watching this episode. And as always, God bless you all.